Well, Patrick, it's the holiday season, and we're back on the air.
You have your red tie on. I have my green tie, red vest. This is Shively and Shoulders Christmas Holiday Edition.
This special.
It is special. I want you to think about this, Judge. We've got millions of viewers, of course. Think about them Christmas Eve, droopy eyelid, one hand on the styrofoam cup of coffee, the other on the computer mouse, waiting for Santa. What are they going to do? They can go to the WNIN website and they can watch old editions of Shively and Shoulders right there.
The whole year's worth.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So if you're killing time waiting for Claus, there's a perfect idea for you.
I've been wanting to talk to you about this all week.
I know you have.
Your good friend, the Attorney General.
Todd Mosquito.
He was disciplined already once for his public statements about this doctor that were untrue, that he wanted to prosecute. And then he signed an agreement where he basically did a mea culpa. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Then within nanoseconds of the decision coming down that was approved by the Supreme Court, he says it's the media and all this stuff, it's political correctness, and he basically took a position totally contrary to what an agreement he signed under oath, and now there's another complaint filed against him with the Disciplinary Commission. Pat, what do you say?
I say he's an embarrassment. He has been since he took the job. He signs on to these amicus briefs on any radical right-wing MAGA type issue he can find. He doesn't care a thing about the laws of the state of Indiana. He cares about Todd Rokita. He was an embarrassment when he was a congressman. It's no different now. And we've kind of got a long line here. Didn't he? He's took the job from, was it Curtis Hill? So it timed maybe to put a Democrat in that office.
Well, it's time that we have a lawyer who understands the ethical responsibilities of being a lawyer.
Hear, hear. I couldn't have said that better. Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Let's assume we do have a county election coming up next year. And if you had someone running for a county office, let's say an auditor, assessor, and they had 91 felony counts, they'd been found guilty in a civil trial of rape, they had been bankrupted a casino, do you think they'd get elected for county auditor?
Probably not.
But they're going to be your standard bearer. That individual will be your candidate for president.
You keep saying your standard.
I forget, you are nonpartisan. The Republican Party's standard bearer may very well be DJ Trump. I can't get over it.
And even if I were still partisan, he would not be my guy.
I know that. Biden's too old, I get that, but what kind of a choice?
Here's what I hope is the case. I hope all these polls that are running right now are inaccurate. I give the voters, always have given voters a lot more credit. He's not going to be, if he gets the Republican slot, he's not going to win. There's no way he's going to win. But I think that voters, even in these primaries, are going to wake up. And quite frankly, if he's found guilty in any of these pending lawsuits, I think that's going to go a long way to reducing his positive vibes.
I'm happy to say that Nikki Haley seems to be gaining some traction, I would say. I think
she beats, on a most recent poll, she's the candidate. She beats Biden by 17 points.
While I think that the only polling that matters, of course, is on Election Day,
right.
I do think she's an attractive up-and-coming candidate. I get the complaints from people about Biden being too old, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact is, if we have a rematch, it ought to be pretty clear where the.
If I were still a Republican and involved in Republican partisan politics, what's the name of the game for every political party? Winning.
True.
Winning the general, not the primary. I would want to elect that candidate, be the standard bearer of my party, had the best chance of winning the general election. Why would you not support Nikki Haley?
Well, I don't know. I still guess there's that problem with getting attacked from the right in your primary, which never seems to be a problem for lapdog Larry Bouchon. Now, let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
If Congressman Bouchon, who gets cover from Tom Langhorne and the local rag that's not fit to
That
line a canary cage called the Courier.
Used to be their lawyer.
They used to be a local paper.
Okay.
They're not even a newspaper anymore. But they all cover for him. None of us know how he votes on anything. But let me say this.
Yes, we do.
If he votes articles of impeachment against Joe Biden, I'm announcing for the 8th District congressional seat right now. I will run against him if he votes to impeach Joe Biden.
Sign right here, will you please?
Well, we'll have to form a committee or something.
There are two candidates in this last general election. Didn't have to be in a primary. They were not opposed, and they're our guest here today.
Do you think that's because they have done such a perfect job in office?
I would assume so.
We will ask them that
Okay.
very question as to why they did not draw opposition.
Don't go away. We're coming right back. Welcome back. Our guests this evening are the two newly elected members of the City Council that had no opposition in the general election. And so you didn't get a chance to see them when we did our pre-election show.
Well, by God, they're going to get opposition
Exactly.
now.
Alex Burton and of the 6th Ward and Angela Koehler Lindsey of the 5th Ward.
Fourth Ward.
Fourth Ward.
Ward.
6th Ward was supposed to be here as well.
Also unopposed, but he's so unopposed he didn't even come.
Right.
He's probably still teaching school.
Well, it could be that. Welcome aboard, Shively and Shoulders, and congratulations.
Thank you.
How many
you.
terms will this be for you, Angela?
This is my 4th.
This will be your 4th term, and Alex?
This is my second.
Second, so you're both experienced council people. Now tell me this. 8-1 Dems with a Dem mayor. Angela, you will be the lone Republican.
Worse than the Maytag repairman.
Exactly. How do you see that working out?
I think it'll be just great. I'm excited to be able to express the minority opinion.
And in the past, we had a Republican mayor, but we had a Democratic city council. I didn't get a sense, Alex, that there was a great deal of friction between the council and the mayor's office.
Not at all. And going into next year, I'm confident that we're going to pass a lot of bipartisan ordinances and resolutions that make Evansville a better place.
Of course, she cannot show up and you'll still have a quorum, which is the way the Republicans do it to the Democrats on the statewide level.
And that's why this state is doing so well.
Well, we could have another show about that.
Let me ask you
I
this.
might agree with you.
Let me ask you this. Fiscal concerns were raised during the election. We apparently, I say we, the city of Evansville has a pretty heavy debt load, plus the millions we're putting into our sewer and water system. What do you think the strategy should be in dealing with the fiscal matters?
One step at a time. It's a lot of things that we had to do. Frankly, our sewer system was old, so we needed to replace it. And I think everyone enjoys clean, healthy, drinkable water. And so we certainly want to make sure that's kept done. And, it's not necessarily always going to be easy. Some difficult decisions are going to be made, but we'll get through it.
I think we'll have to just really carefully prioritize and weigh out. And I do look forward to that because just the time that I've been back on council this last year, we do have a good working relationship, and nobody seems to have, at least yet, we'll see how the new ones are. Nobody seems to have too many crazy, far-out ideas.
One public project you need to make number one.
What's that?
And I just encountered this problem on my way here. Former president of Old National, Bob Jones' Way is like a roller coaster. Are you guys going to get, seriously, it is horrible.
Yeah, so that project, it was so unique, and of course, because Bob is who he is, it just makes perfect sense that the roadway needs a lot of work all the time.
I heard he's threatening to take his name off the road if you guys don't fix it.
Now, is there unfinished business in the Lloyd administration? Well, you got a big vacant lot downtown. Lloyd Winnicky. I call him Lloyd, he's my neighbor. At 4th or 5th in Maine, we got a big lot.
Right.
Other things that are hanging over that a new mayor's going to face?
Yeah, there's a couple of projects. Roberts Park comes to mind immediately as well. Thankfully the pickleball conversation has drastically declined. But it's a project that's going to have to be carried over to the next administration. So this will be a little bit of fun.
And for 3 million viewers, the Roberts Park, what's that about?
Yeah, so where it used to be where Robert Stadium was,
Right.
where a lot of people used to go watch concerts and do all this sorts of things, right? And so it's going to be a park. Thankful to the American Rescue Plan dollars coming in, we'll allocate about $1.5 million to design the park.
Dogs and things? Was this the dog
This
park?
is not the
then?
dog
No.
park.
This is not the
This
dog
is
park.
not the dog
Although
park.
dogs will be welcome there.
The dogs are welcome everywhere, apparently, in Evansville. So
I think that dog park ought to be like number 85 on your priority list. quite
it's
frankly.
not number one.
Okay.
It's not on mine. I think it's
Another-
already done, so we don't have to worry about that.
That's right. Another issue that came up during the campaign was public safety. We don't know who the new police chief is going to be, and I would hope that the mayor gets your input on that, but that's where the leadership begins in public safety. And the present chief has done a good job with limited resources. Do you see a way that with all these other fiscal challenges, we can get more resources into public safety?
This is going to be weird for a Democrat to say, because a lot of times, we're against the police and all this all that. But there's certainly opportunity for funding to be increased to the police department, but we also got to look at other things happening across the city. For me personally, I want to make sure that all our kids in school are able to read and are interested in school so that we can have a better handle on how things go as they age.
Well, it's that prioritizing piece again. Public safety is key, and if you look at something like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's pretty important. You have to feel safe. We want all of our citizens to feel safe, but we also don't want them bouncing up and down Bob Jones' way. So we have a limited amount of dollars that come in, and it's going to be more important than ever to carefully weigh where those dollars are spent.
Angela, you were unopposed. Tribute to you. Nobody stepped up to run against you. You're in touch and represent your constituents in the 5th Ward. What do you hear from the people in your ward as to what they want to see out of a next term in city government?
It's what you always hear. Their street needs to be fixed, their neighborhood, they worry about the zonings and the quality of life that they're going to have, the traffic. It's the basic services that the city provides that folks contact me about the most.
Same question to you, Alex. In the 4th Ward, what are your constituents telling you they'd like to see in the next administration?
Housing.
Housing.
Yes. Too many people are paying too much for inadequate housing. So that is my focus.
What is your remedy, or what plan do you think would work to get a better housing stock out there?
Yeah, good question. First, it's really advocating at the state level to make sure that people aren't subjected to living in homes with plenty of mold. So it's perfectly legal for too many residents or residents in general to live in a home with mold and broken windows, and it's not the landlord's responsibility. And so I've been working with Representative Hatfield to see what we can get done there in that regard, because right now it's a free-for-all. Things are happening in homes that aren't owned by those living in them, and there's nothing that can be done, unfortunately. And a lot of landlords know that, and they use that to their advantage.
Is the answer for housing more single-family structures or more multiple family structures?
All the above.
Okay.
We see barrels. We talked about Bob Jones' way, but there are barrels and orange cones and flashing lights all over the city. You can't even get out at downtown right now on any particular street. What's that about, and is there an end in sight?
In my opinion, I'd say progress is happening. I'd much rather see orange barrels than streets filled with potholes. And, a lot of it's sewer projects, and a lot of it is just taking a while for there being so many streets in the city of Evansville that need to be repaired, and they've been prioritized. And so shout out to the city engineer for figuring it out. And like I said, I'd much rather see orange barrels than drive past unoccupied potholes.
Speaking of roads, the Lloyd Expressway is going to do a major upgrade. What is your plan to get local input on those plans as opposed to having some engineering group in Indianapolis dictate how a highway serves our people get spilled?
I think that's one of those things where there is a process in place, and one of our roles is to make sure that that process happens. You know, when they do these major projects, they have to get public input. And so, you know, we need to be working with our agencies, with the Area Planning Commission, with the Metropolitan Plan, to just make sure that they are listening to what we're saying down here. We're the ones that drive on the road the most. And again, like you mentioned earlier, you know, a big part of what we do locally is having that communication with our state representatives, because a lot of times that's where the legislation needs to start.
We're hearing about a new park with Roberts and a new streets coming in from one way or the other and a new entrance into Westman Park down there. During the campaign, when people sat here that were running for office, we heard them talk a lot about our parks need help. Our parks need more money. They're not in good shape. We're embarrassed about the condition of some of our parks throughout the city. Any plans or any thoughts about that?
Yeah, the master plan just was completed. So through the course of the campaign, the 5-year master parks plan was really shared out. And I'm curious to see what the new administration does with that information, and certainly figures out a plan. You know, Angela's just like myself. There's plenty of parks. Some look better than others. Others have equipment that has been there for quite a while, and so it's really going to be making that list of priorities and seeing which parks and take really the precedent or set the tone.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting to see how that plays out. You know, it does, and I'm going to say it again, it goes back to priorities and the funding that we have, you know, taking care of the basic needs first, and then looking at, you know, how you're going to allocate the amount of dollars that you have. And I think you also have the factor when you have a 3-term mayor that, you know, announced well in advance that he was not going to run again, you had a lot of department heads jump ship. And so, you know, Parks was kind of a little bit of a different case, but you know, you had a lot of department heads that were leaving, and we had a lot of interim department heads these last few months and this last year. So now it's kind of been in a limbo process, and we'll be able to move forward with the new administration. And I'll be watching to see and look forward to working with Councilman Burton and our new mayor.
Last question before they've given us the sign. What does that one finger mean? Oh, never mind.
Oh.
Right
Can't take
during
him
the
in,
election, right about that time, there was this kerfuffle at the council about a raise for the mayor, for department heads, or for councilmen, or for somebody. And there was a little divisive vote, some going one way or some going the other. What was that about? Where were you in that discussion? And is it behind us?
Oh, I'm going first again.
Go ahead and take that one,
Yeah,
Angela.
well, now, you know, Alex, I'm just sitting back and listening. That's the way I like to roll. Kerfuffle, golly, you can't take him anywhere, and he's got Dr. Seuss's vocabulary.
That's right. Absolutely.
You know, what happened on that is that, and I've seen it happen before, you know, you got to remember I was 2 when I started, but the last 30 years on and off in city government, that the mayors are sometimes hesitant to take that raise. And then we get down to the end of the term, and you say, wow, we're really out of whack with some of the other municipalities, so we got to fix that. And that's kind of what happened this time, and I hope it's behind us.
Yeah, you know, the mayor of Evansville, you know, Mayor Winnecke has done a wonderful job and has been everywhere doing all things. And we knew that someone was going to have to come behind him, and we wanted to make sure they were well prepared and had a salary that was adequate for 2023. And so Mayor-elect Terry is stepping into the role, and I'm looking forward to her serving and leading the city with more money than what Mayor Winnecke had.
So that's behind us, and we're all calm now about the
Best of luck to you both
Thank you.
in 2024. I know you guys will serve the city well. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you
Absolutely.
for having
Thank
us.
you.
Happy holidays.
Happy
When we
holidays.
come back,
Christmas.
I'm going to take one more holiday crack at Patrick. Don't go away.
Alas, I will say this, with this new situation in city government, the Democrats won't have anybody to blame. We've got the mayor's office and 8 out of 9 council people. Good having the final 2 on with us today, but it's really the Democrats now to win or lose.
But I really do think at the local level, things become a lot less partisan. It's a very local thing. They listen to their constituents. They try to do what's best for the city. We saw that when the ratio was a little bit different. We had a Republican mayor and a council controlled by the Democrats, and it was smooth sailing most of the way.
I think that's right. I think things are generally pretty good.
Okay, Patrick, hang with me here.
I'm hanging.
I'm going to lay out a scenario for you. You're on the board of trustees of IU.
I was.
Your president of your institution has appeared before Congress to answer questions about anti-Semitic demonstrations on the Bloomington campus, the Indianapolis campus, and really doesn't appease the elected officials in Congress. What do you do about that? I mean, the president of University of Pennsylvania has already resigned.
Yeah, I think that whole thing was unfortunate. First of all, I don't like actually Congress, be it Republicans or Democrats, involving themselves in higher education.
Let's say it's the Indiana General Assembly, and they're threatening to cut off funding.
And I don't think that's their place. I think they need to fund our institutions and leave academia to the academics. I think the answer that the 3 gave, trying to hedge their bets in a very difficult situation where they have Israeli students, they have Palestinian students, nobody's in favor of Hamas. They tried to hedge their bets. Could have answered the question, do I think it should have been a career-ending situation? I do not.
But weren't some of the demonstrations akin to Oliver Wendell Holmes' statement about free speech? You can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Right. I think there's too much grandstanding in Congress on both sides. But for Representative Stefanik, who has reinvented herself many times, to be grandstanding here with 3 highly intelligent, great academic leaders in 3 of our Ivy League institutions, and to demand an answer on the floor of Congress is not the way we should be running higher education.
Several big donors, one donor to Harvard, they never revealed the name, was in the process of making a $100 million gift to that institution, and now is going to withhold it.
And that's that donor's prerogative. Obviously, those are philanthropic dollars. Indiana University, frankly, during my 20 years, had the #1 ranked Jewish studies program in the United States
Hillel
of America.
Foundation, yeah.
Well, and think about Eskenazi and all of the, and the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. We've had the benefit of a lot of great Jewish philanthropy. Universities need to be marketplaces of ideas. Nobody should be in favor of genocide. I don't care whether it's the Houthis in Africa or the Jews and the Palestinians. We all get that. The presidents of those colleges got that. These are sensitive times. Everybody just needs to keep their wits about them.
I think in part, a lot of this recent situation is a pot that was starting to boil a long time ago.
Yeah.
A lot of anti-intellectual, liberal thought concerned about that these institutions of higher learning are becoming institutions of indoctrination. And I think all that came to a boil with this crisis.
I think the rhetoric gets heated and the solutions go wanting. I think that we have a problem on our southern border. I don't think it's helped when somebody running for president comes down an escalator and says Mexicans are rapists. I don't believe the drug problem in this country is directly tied to the border situation. But Congress can't legislate. That's the problem. And they use hearings about college presidents to deflect our attention from the real issues.
That may be a plausible explanation, but the cat's out of the bag that those issues are out there. Oh. And higher institutions of learning are going to be under fire across the board, not just the Ivy League ones.
I think that's right. The Indiana legislature defunded or said no money going into the Kinsey Institute. That makes me sick at my stomach. It's okay to study sex, but somebody needed to make a point in the Indiana legislature and say, well, by God, they're pedophiles. That's just silly. Herman Wells fought that battle in the 1940s. We don't need to revisit it now.
I do agree with you on that point.
Bingo.
That was grandstanding of all grandstanding.
It truly was. Now,
I got my list of questions here for you.
that's wonderful. If we have time, let's make this a 2-hour show.
Who's going to win the Republican gubernatorial primary?
Well, since people keep coming out of the woodwork with their own bankroll, I keep seeing commercials of people I've never heard of. My answer to your question is, Mike Braun bought himself a Senate seat. Why would one think he can't buy himself the governor's office?
What do you think it's going to take to win? I mean, Suzanne Crouch, our lieutenant governor, has raised a nice war chest, and she's been very visible in all 92 counties. Isn't it the candidate's going to prevail, the one who has the best organization? And where should the concentration be? Central Indiana, southern Indiana, northern Indiana?
We learned long ago that merit has little to do with sometimes these elections. I believe Mike Braun's Senate record should disqualify him from running for governor. I think Suzanne Crouch has served as lieutenant governor in a very loyal fashion, run the state chamber, done agriculture. The way we win, way your old party wins races in this state is they don't carry the urban areas. They carry all the county and agricultural counties, and whoever's going to win that governor's race will have to go back to that formula. That Mitch taught them all.
Is that the reason you don't see a candidate from Gary?
Well, we do just fine in Gary and inside the Beltway in Indianapolis, in Evansville,
right.
Inside, but not in the county. I mean, Evansville's a microcosm of exactly what's going on in the state.
It's interesting, Indianapolis itself is so strong Democrat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just think of when we were younger. Evan Bayh's governor, I think we had 9 of 11 congressional seats and both U.S. Senate seats.
Right.
Mitch, your man Mitch, completely flipped this state, and now Democrats don't even need to show up. Although there were glimmers of hope throughout the state. In the urban areas, all of the cities were captured by Democratic mayors.
The irony of that is that, I don't mean to speak for Mitch Daniels, but I don't think he'd be very proud of the far-right direction the party is going.
Well, I think he and Governor Holcomb both stayed away from
right.
the ideological bent. Mike Pence represented that kind of governorship, and I don't believe he'd have been reelected, frankly, if he's not picked for vice president. But Mitch was a conservative, traditional Republican, bankroll issues, and whether you agreed or not, got things done, made for change.
Got things done, that's right.
And Holcomb has, for the most part, he's been drug in, but for the most part has tried to govern the same way.
I would agree. Now, the next question I have for you.
Yes.
Who's going to win the general election for president of the United States?
Joe Biden. But you know what? Before we leave Indiana University, which we've both served as trustees, we ought to take a moment during the holiday season and say, Robert Montgomery Knight, wherever you're resting right now, thank you for reinventing the game of basketball at the collegiate level. Nobody did it like you did from 1971 till about 1992, right in there. There was nobody like him. He had a lot of faults, but he put Indiana on the map in that game that we all love, and may he rest in peace.
And he did so by emphasizing student-athlete. His players had to be performers in the classroom as well.
And played by the rules. The game, of course, has changed.
Right.
So, Joe Biden wins. We can wrap it up there. But all Shively and Shoulders viewers, we wish you the very best. Camera on the judge. Happy holidays from Shively and Shoulders.